So I'm starting this next video, which will probably be 2 to 3 parts on this bottom handle. The bottom handle right here, it'll definitely be 3 parts. I just realized there's a small detail on the end, and it's where they punch the piece, probably mechanically, in manufacturing, and it has this little turn down. It's probably not something that needs to be incorporated, but for students who kind of take it to the next level of realism, that will make it look really good. There's an error on the dimensions of this that you could only get off of the video that I'm going to have to go ahead and replace um, on the drawing itself or on the hand sketch. And if you look, the top handle pivots within the sides. Let's call these ears of the bottom handle on the right and left side of the valve. There's the bottom handle's attachment. So you can see that this top handle pivots between there and there. But in this picture, it's very clear that there's a groove right in here and in here in the valve that this handle sits down between. So basically, where my cursor is, the distance, it's the inside distance that you have to work off of in here, whereas on this one, we worked off of the outside distance. And that distance was unknown on my drawing. I never defined it because what I had done was gone through a series of over, down, over, up, over, down, and then I mirrored the middle of it. I did know that the width of the whole thing was 1.5, but I never did determine what that distance of from across right here where it says same. I was able to determine it going back to the AutoCAD drawing by taking the valve and going up here to a front view. And the way I determined it was, so again, if the thickness of if this handle sits down in this notch and down in this notch and is pinned right through this section of the valve, then all I need to know is, and sometimes this measure tool does not work that well. I'm in a 2D ribbon right now, but if I measure the distance from here to here, see my dimension style is not set up for something this size, but it tells me that that's 1 inch. Okay. Now I'm at a point where I can start my drawing. Okay. And I think I do have so I'm going to switch back to a 3D modeling ribbon. And I think I do already have a bottom handle layer set up. And I do right there, bottom handle. Okay. So the way the approach in drawing this is going to be, I'm going to start probably in the bottom left area, down here where it says, down here in this corner, basically. And I'm going to go up and down and around. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to say it's going to go up 1.190. And then it's going to come over 1.515. And then you can see up here on this side, there's some dimensions or measurements. And that dimension would be, let's see, is that B? B says it's 0.565. So I'll come down 0.565. Now I'm at a point where I have a distance, and I do know the distance. It's defined. It's 3.530. But it's 3.530, 22.5 degrees down from here, which is 0, or 360. So if I take 360 and I subtract 22.5 degrees, I can say at 3.530, and then use the angle symbol. And I have to now think and try to do the math and say, what's 360 minus 22.5? Well, that would be 340. 337.5. Okay. And then this is, let's see, it tells me right here that the thickness of this handle is 0.835. So I'm just going to draw a line down here into space, and I'll offset this 0.835. Okay. This part can now be extended. And this line, which was at an unknown distance, can be drawn over this way. And this now can also be extended like so. For some reason, I feel like in the actual fire extinguisher itself, I feel like this intersection, I feel like this actually kind of belongs over here, like so. Um, so it really, I tell students it really doesn't matter whichever way you want to do it, is up to you. But if you look here, this rivet right here does not, um, the hole that's going to go here would kind of miss over here. So what I would do is just extend this down and then move this over. And this is one of those things where, we're looking for the photorealism out of this, and we want the drawing to be as close as possible, but perfect is not necessarily something that we need to achieve. The other thing is that we could do is offset this 0.835 upward from the bottom, but then you can see that it's going to not leave as much space up here. The other thing you could do is just arbitrarily do this. And extend it like so, and extend it like so. So anything, sky's the limit as far as that goes. Okay. At this point, there is a couple of other things that we got to focus on. We do need to have a cookie cutter that's going to go all the way through this, but we're going to need two, because we're going to need one that's going to go in this direction through the top portion, and we're going to need another one that's going to go in this direction through the bottom portion. So in this case, if we know that and I said this is an incorrect dimension, we know that between the two sides, between that we need 1 full inch. So what I'm going to do is I got to do a little math again. The thickness is 0.065. So I have to say, okay, 1 full inch, or point plus 0.065 plus 1.065 is equal to 2.13. So in this case, I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to say at oops, I did that math wrong. 1 full inch is equal to 1.13. So I'll say at 1.13, comma, and this is where I can determine the height. And as long as I go over the maximum height of the object at any point, then I am just fine. So I'll say 2. Okay. This now, why did it have to be over that? It just had to be that much right there. And I just realized I screwed something up. The extrusion is the thing that's 1.13. The cookie cutter that I should be making is 1 inch. So, whoops on that. So the extrusion is at 1, comma, I'll just make it 2.5. Two of these will work completely fine, but one of them is going to need a fillet at the bottom because there will be some thickness. So this part I can run as my cookie cutter that's going to go through here. The other one is going to be my cookie cutter that's going to go and travel along the handle at that diagonal. So in this case, I want to do that fillet radius of 0.025, just like I did on the last one, and select that. I might actually go bigger than that 0.05. There we go. That looks good. And 0.05. And just like I did on the last one too, I'm also going to need a little stick. That's the same. So that's 0.065. That's the thickness of the handle. And I'll also need one right here for the thickness of the handle material. Okay. It'd be time now to go back to the drawing to look at where these holes are located. And it tells me that the hole offsets are 0.20 in from the intersection and then 0.390 down from the top and bottom. So if I offset 0.390 from the bottom and from the top, those would be my hole locations vertically. I'm going to put these on a construction layer. And then if I offset 0.20 in from here and in from here, those would be my horizontal locations. And I'm going to have a hole right here, and I'm going to have a hole right here. So this one didn't quite make it. So this and this again are just for locations. So now I'll go to hole. These holes had a diameter of 0.125, otherwise known as 1/8 of an inch. So I'll copy that. Come over here. I can get rid of all these lines that I used for alignment. And I can do just the exact same thing as I did before, which is to draw a construction line from here to here to here. And again, I'm not going to mess like before I messed with that filleting earlier on. I'm not going to mess with it too much. I'm going to come back in the next video and I'm going to deal with this tab slicing issue. And before I do that, though, I can move my template right over here. So I'll deal with this little tab slicing bit. This is kind of part of it takes place in 2 dimensions and the other part in 3.